And with no further ado, let me introduce Ariana. Ariana, bear with me. I am going to do a little bit of a formal introduction. So I'm very excited to welcome our first ever featured youth mentor, Ariana Ivan. Ariana Ivan is one of the Global Choices Arctic Angels and the founders of 108 Forests, focusing on stewarding forest ecosystems. At 17 years old, she started her first nonprofit organization, helping youths create projects to support the growth of the local Romanian economy, and has founded a soft skills academy, which is active and was active in Germany, the Netherlands, and Romania. And she enjoys mostly working with people from the ages of 14 to 34. Thank you for going outside of that age range for us today, Ariana. Welcome. We welcome you to the community.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. I'm very, very grateful to be here today and talk to you and share with you my journey. Where shall I start?
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I'd love to go back. Your history and really how you've gotten here is so quite interesting, Ariana.
Yeah.
But before we go back, when we met the first time, I remember you telling me a story about how you start your mornings when we talked about the world of presence and meditation. Do you want to share with everyone how you start your mornings?
Yeah, I'm from Romania. I was born in Romania in this little town, and it is by the Danube River. So I am used to be all the time around water and all the time connect to nature. And right now I'm in San Francisco, and I'm very fortunate to live in this area that is very close to the ocean and in between the forest. So there's like a cliff that it's 10 minutes walking from my house. And every morning I like to, or like not every morning, but every other morning, I like to go there, take my breakfast, and sit like deep in nature, overlooking the ocean and meditate. And that really allows me to be aware of my surroundings and also feel like, you know, I'm part of this like force around me, that everything is moving. I hear the tree branches move and the water, the waves crashing, and that really sets the tone for every day to, you know, understand that I'm part of nature, that everything is gonna be okay. Yeah, that's how I love starting the mornings, and I invite everyone to like find their little nature corner to just be a bit for a few minutes.
I think the morning that we spoke, there was actually dolphins.
Yeah.
Which was super special. Like we always talk about, there's so many signs around us kind of pointing us to our journey. So I am so excited to have the community share with you, or have you share with them about your journey. So take us back a little bit before we get to 108 Forests, what you're up to now.
Thank you. As I said, I grew up in Romania, and it is a country that I love and don't love at the same time sometimes. And it is because I grew up in this education system where people told me to not question what I was learning, to not to just learn by heart everything. And when my teachers were telling me to do that, I was like, what? And there was this moment I remember clearly one day when the director of my of a school that I was at, she told me that I'm alone, that I need to figure it out. I need to stop asking questions. I need to stop questioning the system, and just like figure it out. And I was like, what? I need to figure it out all by myself? So that was like, I felt like a lot of anger was building up. So I decided to jump into like personal development workshops and understand that side and understand like personal branding and communication skills. So I started a nonprofit organization when I was a teenager, with the goal to take people, youth like me, outside of the classroom, and help them build projects that they can not only help the local community, grow, but also help themselves have these life skills. And since then, I've done workshops with people from 14 to 34. And I chose that age, not actually, I didn't choose it. That's the type of people who are coming there. And everyone was like, oh, why are you putting us with 14-year-olds? And we were like, just wait and see. And at the end, everyone was leaving with this sense of like, whoa, we can all learn from each other. It doesn't matter what age we are. It doesn't matter where we are from. We can all learn from each other. So I've been active for several years in this industry, the education industry, helping people with communication and different life skills and getting jobs. And we've had the pleasure to work with over 10,000 people in Europe. And that's, I think, my core passion, where I see people light up when they have that aha moment. Now I know what my next step is, and I'm motivated and I feel supported to take it. That's how I started to have this desire to build my own projects instead of necessarily like working within a corporate or employee type of system.
Well, that's awesome. When you talk about, purpose, right? Like our 4 tenets here at Conscious Capitalism is, purpose, culture, leadership, stakeholders. It's amazing to see how those have been weaving through in your story throughout.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about when back in the nonprofit organization you started. What was one of the first projects with the trees? Which is so great because, it's like, how do you get here? What's your story? How did she get from there to 108 forests, And it's like, it's been weaving the whole time. So tell us a little bit about that. It's really, I was just like, aha, that was one of my aha moments talking to you.
Yeah, like the other day we had this conversation and you're asking like, what was one of the first projects that you did? And it took me a while to like think about it. And then I was like, oh, the first project was that we made a partnership with the local forester organization, like forestry organization. And we started to plant a lot of trees. And we gathered all the students and started to tell them, that this tree will tell a story and it's going to be, their story, and where they put it, it's going to impact someone's life. And that's how unconsciously maybe I started to have this like passion for forests. But to be honest, I like grew up on and off. Every summer, every holiday, my parents and I was very fortunate enough, they would take me everywhere in Romania in nature, and would camp and live there, very like self-sufficient. And that allowed me to understand the value of nature. And Heather, should I say now about my trip when I came back to Romania and my shock?
Perfect timing. Perfect.
Yes. For this one, I wanted to like share with you the screen to show you what I saw. This is what I saw when I went back. Like half of the mountains, as you can see on the left, they were kind of gone, the trees. And then I started to travel more and more. And I still saw this image everywhere. And I was fortunate enough to, be last year at the World Economic Forum, and we were in this like cabin, and we were going up the mountain, and the cabin was like so crammed with people because we were going to this dinner, and I was like sitting in front of this human, and we were kind of forced to talk to each other because we were like super close. And he started to say how he like wants to protect nature and how they want to invest in saving forests. And I said, what keeps you from doing that? He said, well, I was thinking at Romania, like somewhere like in that area, and I don't really know someone. And I said, well, I'm from Romania. I'm happy to help. And then we met in Berlin, and the journey for me started when it didn't start there, but it continued my journey to understand how I can help. And I started to research more and more, and I realized that 80% of the world's forests have been destroyed up to this day. 80%. So I was very shocked. And I went back to research more and understand what can we actually do. And I was in the process because I started a partnership with them, and I started to research more. So I went and talked to the people that, sorry, my computer is having problems. I went and talked to the people that were actually cutting down the forest. The people that were, having the machines and wanting to take down the trees. And I asked them, why are you doing this? Like, with all the information about climate change going around, with you growing up in these woods, these are all forests. What motivates you to, cut them down? And they looked at me blandly and said, money. And I was like, oh, obviously, you need money. And he said, I don't like this, but I don't feel that I have any other choice. And I said, well, why don't you do that and that? And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is the industry that is like around me. Imagine these are people that are living in villages. They are like trying to provide for their family, and this is the main industry around them. And I was like, okay. He asked me, do you have a job for me that I can do something else? Because I see you're so eager. And, I kind of froze, and I said, not yet, but I'm going to come back. So I went further and I talked to the forest owners, the ones that were allowing, the cutting. And I asked the same question. And obviously the same answer again, money. So I was like, okay, it makes sense. A few days after that, I started to hear talks about people on the media saying, let's stop cutting forests, let's stop logging, deforestation. And I felt, this like kind of anger or disappointment or like eager, like all sorts of feelings apparently, that, it's not fair to say to people, stop doing your job when they don't feel they have an alternative, when they're not like really helped to do something else. So I was like, what can I do? So besides the fact that we stewarded a few forests in Romania that were about to be cut down, this year I came here to San Francisco and I started an organization called 108 Forests that has the goal to shape the science of profitably saving forests. And we created a model that incentivizes people to financially incentivize people to protect the forests. So yeah, that's where I am right now. I am gonna let Heather see if there is something that I'm missing.
Yeah, no, it's nothing you're missing. I think it's absolutely perfect on you're perfectly on point, Ariana. We talk about kind of this weaving through, right, on how our journeys have led us through this moment in this time. What most impressed me with listening to your journey and what you're trying to spread into the world, really helping the world for not only our generation, but future generations of pure survival, is the fact that you were able to look at someone and really try to understand the why. Like, why are you doing this? Why are these forests, being destroyed? And then when I think about the journey, can you talk a little bit about the journey that actually connected us because we were actually connected through the Global Choices Arctic Angels. If you wouldn't mind stopping sharing your screen too, so we can all come back good, which is so near and dear to my heart, the Arctic Angels. But can you talk a little bit about what you're doing with them? It's an amazing, important movement. But I wanted to give you the floor to talk about that a little bit.
What is beautiful about this world is that, you know, there is this like common problem that we share, which is the fact that the climate is changing and pollution and all sorts of negative things happening. And, you know, besides forests, there is another pressing problem, which is the fact that the ice is melting. So I was, again, very lucky to meet the founders of Global Choices. And I was telling Inge, one of the founders, that, you know, I miss being surrounded by other people that I can identify with, by other young women, by women of all ages that I can feel supported by. And I asked her, like, do you know any group? And she said, well, I've started Global Choices, and the value of this organization is to bring at the decision-making table all people of all generations and come together to understand how we can address the most pressing problems. The organization focuses on the ice, and they're currently working on setting up policies and working on the ground. And even they're like, now for the next year, we're trying to get sponsorships to send one of our Arctic Angels on a trip to the Arctic and be on the ground to understand actually what's happening there. So this organization is also very important to me because, you know, forests and water and ice are all connected. And being active in, you know, this multifaceted environment where I can understand the complexity of the problem is so important. So anyone that is interested in how to support, you know, these efforts against, you know, the ice melting, can come and join us and support us there.
That's great. We'll make sure we put that in the chat. I know we have a few questions, but you know, we're such a tight community and a tight, just almost like a family, Ariana. So I actually want to just open it up to everyone. Please unmute, ask your questions. Feel free to ask directly to Ariana, and let's really kind of start the chat amongst ourselves and learn from each other.
So Ariana, I just wanted to hear more about the deforestation model, the details of that, how it works, and what some responses to it have been that you've received, how it's been received, what objections or concerns people have raised. Just more details there, please.
Thank you so much for the question. The model that we've researched and now propose has two parts. The first one is the governance. It's very important to set up these legal structures in place where people are not really, it's not easy for them to cut down the forest. So we've researched multiple legal structures that we can use, and we found out that having a perpetual purpose trust and a management entity allows us to have the owners, forest owners, put the conservation rights into the organization, or have us directly acquire the forest and put them under this structure. And what this does is that it takes the forest out of the you know, destructive selling, buying market, and places them into like a constant conservation cycle. So that's the first step we take, to have this legal structure in place. But this is not enough. So we created this so-called forest caretaker model, where we basically separate the land working rights from land ownership rights. And we give the land working rights to entrepreneurs, farmers, businesses, ethical businesses, to come protect the forest and also build an ethical business. And they receive this land working rights for like a weekend or 50 years, depending on the project. And we're talking about immersive experiences. We're talking about food systems, agroforestry. We're talking about different forestry management and forest health technologies that these companies need some forests to work with. And the beauty of it is that it really takes a community to protect the forest. And this is why we wanted to bring a group of forest caretakers to have the responsibility and the desire to protect the forest while they do something that is ethical and also impacts the local community. They create jobs, they create education opportunities for them, and together we can protect the forest. And we have started to have a partnership with the foundation Terra Livre. And with them, we're working on 8,000, almost 9,000 acres, where there are this type of projects, like different living situations, different food systems, and we're currently monitoring them. And then lately this week, I'm doing a partnership with a forest owner in Panama, where there's a jungle that needs to be protected. And the locals are cutting them down because they need money. So we are now working in Panama, looking at Ecuador to implement this model and bring forest caretakers on the ground to start different initiatives there and protect the forest. Does that answer the question a bit?
Yeah, loads more content. I guess I'm curious if what are some objections that have been raised from current stakeholders or current users of those forests? What are some of the obstacles you've had to deal with in implementing that model with these projects?
Yeah, well, the obstacle is definitely on the ground when we need to work with the local governments to protect it. If there is a time, for example, one example is that if we don't have forest caretakers there for the majority of time, the forest owners, because they haven't seen anyone in the past just come and stay and like do good out of their own heart. They believe that people have like a hidden intention. So the lack of trust led to these people to like cut down the forest when no one is there to support them, because they were like, oh, now no one is going to come back. So that's one part that we have been, challenged by. And this is why we were like, okay, the forest caretaker system, to have people come there makes the most sense for now. But it's a work in progress. And we're looking for experts and advisors and scientists to come on board more and help us shape it more and more and more. Right now, we're in the research and development phase. So we're gathering all this data and understanding really what makes sense, because we can't continue like this. Like, one thing is for sure, we can't let the forests, get deforested. So we need to find a model, and that's what we're working on right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you have any feedback or something, I would love to connect with you more later.
So I have a very quick question, Ariana. First of all, thank you so much just thank you. What's the best way to get involved? Like, if, talking to people about your organization in this movement, I mean, what's the best way to get involved? I guess that's the easiest way to ask.
Okay. Thank you for that question, and I love your image of the fireplace.
Keeping me warm.
Yeah. There are so many ways. So currently, we're partnering up with scientists and domain experts, from agroforestry to technology to forest bathing. So we're always looking for people that can either become forest caretakers or that they can mentor in this industry. We're soon going to start fundraising. So that's another thing that we're currently like talking to potential investors to see who can support us in our first phase, not only with money, but also like with resources and like, you know, connections and knowledge. The other thing is that we have a few forest owners, but we're looking for more forest owners to work with, from temperate forests to tropical forests. So these are like the three things that come to mind right now that we're actively working on.
We had talked a little while ago, you talked about a little interesting from shifting, you know, forests as we think about a lot of times to the output of like being like wood products and kind of transforming that industry from forests more of to create healthy solutions. And it was really interesting. Would you expand on that a little bit more for the community?
Thank you. Yes. So what's happening right now is that when we talked with people on the ground, weirdly enough, they see logging as the only strategy to make money with the forest. So they see forests as a wood product right now. And I was, you know, I want to say I was shocked. I knew about it, but I was still shocked. And I was thinking, you know, for me, forests and nature is a place where I go to, you know, get my strength back, get my, you know, just get myself together. And for me, it's a health solution. So I started to talk to a few investors. And every time I said, you know, imagine forests as a health solution. And now the whole world is like, the opportunities is opening up because they see forests of like, oh, we can actually take people there and meditate. We can take people and do different therapy sessions. We can go there and do like different health boot camps there. We can go and create, you know, yurts that people can go live there, maybe create, you know, they can start seeing art parks, like in Italy, for example. They bring artists and they create art in the forest, and then people come to experience nature, but also the art. And, you know, when we switch the narrative from like people seeing forest of like, oh, it's not like, it can make some money with logging, but actually it can make more money for everyone, for the locals, for the forest owners, for the partners, if we see forests as a health solution now. So that's something that I saw that it works when I explain it to people. And to just like give you like a picture about what does this like numbers mean, we calculated that with 1,000-acre property on a temperate forest, you can make, if you have this forest caretaker system umbrella on it, you can make up to $950,000 per year. And that's a lot of money. Of course, these are projections, right? So like, this is like, it can go down, it can go up, depending on the projects that you put. We've calculated this with having companies come and be forest caretakers, because companies like, you know, like corporates came to us and they were like, how can we support? So now they can support by becoming forest caretakers and paying a monthly or yearly fee to protect the forest. We've talked to artists. They're willing to come there, protect the forest, create. And that amount we put into the financial model. We have health and meditation solutions. And we look at like, how much do people earn with those businesses? And we talk to them and they're willing to come and be forest caretakers there and share the revenue with the forest owners. So there are so many opportunities that we can do right now to minimize the impact on the forest and maximize the impact on the community and people that come to protect the forest. Yes?
Have you looked at the idea of, obviously carbon credits are a big deal from a consumption perspective. Have you looked at it from the other side, which is you're actually sequestering carbon back into, you know, I mean, that's the general benefit of a forest, is the ability to take the carbon out. Has there been any opportunity to look at giving credits towards, or seeing if communities will give credits towards the the landowner for either keeping the forest or starting a forest and using it based upon the maturity of the forest or the quality of the forest, providing carbon credits.
Yes, we've been researching this and talking to the majority of the stakeholders involved. This is a great opportunity for very big forest areas. What's happening right now, I'm all the time very like shy to talk about it because I don't have a good view over this matter. I've encountered no transparency. I haven't everyone has their own numbers and their own prices. There's like no clear regulation around it. There are so many companies that we're talking right now that they are trying to be the player to like set up these regulations and work with the governments and like try to put this industry together. So as it is right now, this industry is starting to take place. So it's a great opportunity for people that want to solve this problem. So we are talking to, like, from governments to the accreditation companies to the startups. And as soon as something is like, does make sense, we are planning to implement it. It is in our financial plan. As an immediate solution, what I did is that when I talk to companies and I ask them, so like, hey, we have these forests, are you interested in helping us to protect them? They said yes. And I said, do you need like a carbon credit diploma or something? And they said, well, not necessarily. Can we like partner up and just, do like a marketing solution around it? So right now, because it's very like unclear about how things are like right now, we succeeded to make this like companies to become forest caretakers, and we give them this like, the ability to like protect forests, hence they attract employees and, their whole image, their values change from polluting to supporting nature. Yeah, I'm not sure if I like completely answered your question. I'm a bit shy about this topic.
No, I think you did a good job. I know that in the EU, they pay farmers to plant trees instead of farming a lot of their land because of the oversupply of dairy products, specifically dairy products. So it cuts down on the pollution of the farms themselves, while at the same time it sort of ties up the land for 20, 25 years for the maturity of softwoods. But the problem then is in 20, 25 years, there's somebody going out and cutting down a whole bunch of trees and it starts all over again. So I'm not sure how that cycle works from there.
Yeah, that's what I had a talk last week about this topic, and it seems that this money are going into like more monocultures and trees that are good for wood. Yeah. So one of my advisors was saying that it's important to plant different trees and like look at like how were the forests so long, like a long time ago, and understand how we can like replicate that a bit, because right now we're kind of like going into like a bit of a monoculture situation.
Yeah. It was there to solve a different type of problem, which was the overfarming of dairy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I had a quick question. Are you familiar with Elinor Ostrom?
No.
No. Okay. So you got to check this out. So Elinor Ostrom won the Nobel Prize in Economics for her work on essentially the idea of the tragedy of the commons. So, the village had like a common ground, and if everybody grazed their livestock there and just wiped out the grass, then, nobody had it and it wasn't good for anybody. So, so she did a whole bunch of work on groups, and she found groups that were really good at maintaining their commons, whether it was lobster fishermen off an island off of Maine, or, some other group that recognized that it was a group, that it had a resource, and then got together and figured out how to protect it and manage it and grow it and improve it, as opposed to just decimating it. So, so she has 8 core design principles that groups that work together well to protect their commons need to have. So that's, I put it in the chat. So it's Elinor Ostrom, Core Design Principles.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, because I know you're trying to put together, you know, like a logic or how the groups fit together or how they would work to do this. So one of the important things with this is just, you know, the first one is that the group needs to recognize that they are a group and that they have this resource, you know, and that it's theirs. And then they start to think about, okay, so, you know, because if somebody else can just come in and grab it, then everybody's just going to go in and decimate it and grab as much as they can first. So, but if it's they are this group and they own this thing, they have this resource, then they can start to work on how to protect it. And so she lays out what the core design principles are for a group like that to actually succeed and do well. And then she says that there could be other principles depending on what the particular group is actually doing, but those are the core things. Doesn't matter what that group's resource is, those are the core things that have to be there in order for that to work well.
Amazing, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
When you were talking earlier about the different types of businesses, ethical businesses that you were trying to get, it reminded me of when we had a previous guest, Assarasi, and it's actually a sparkling water company, bottled water company. I believe they do glass bottles, and they actually collect their water from maple trees, from the sap of maple trees. So I guess a certain percentage, like a high percentage of when you collect sap is just water. So they filter out the water from the sap, and that's how they create their sparkling water. So that just reminded me of a way that people can in fact make money off of trees without destroying them. So I just wanted to bring that up.
That's amazing, thank you. I was not aware of that.
Yeah, we actually have, that's on our YouTube channel. If you ever want to look into what they do, we had a talk with them.
Definitely, thank you.
Hey, Ariana, I just wanted to say thank you for doing what you do. And I guess you've been doing it for a while now, so I just wanted to, again, appreciate what you've been doing. I saw on the website on 108 Forest that you guys have been operating in parts of Europe and Ecuador. Where are your next locations realistically, and then why those specifically? Are you aiming for the best places to try to change because of their financial status and what the people might be around them, or are you trying to change, or are you trying to go to the new place because of how bad the conditions are there?
Yeah, that's one of the questions that was actually like thinking a lot, and we were debating where to go and what to do. We chose right now as our very next location, Panama and perhaps Costa Rica. What's happening there, the reason why we want to go there is because we have this specific case where some biologists succeeded to acquire a forest there, which is like a very hard thing to do because of the local, you know, like how it's set up from like a legal perspective. And they were like, oh, you know, we got this forest into like the middle of nowhere, no one is gonna come here. And that happened, you know, like 2 years ago. And now 2 years later, they're like, maybe in 10 years, someone is gonna come here and do some damage. Well, 2 years passed, and now they're completely panicking because the forests around them are being cut down massively. And we're talking about the forests that have the biggest, you know, biodiversity, that they're literally our lungs. And the locals there, they do this because, you know, they need to serve their families. So I want to go there and work with the locals there, and work with these biologists that are my friends, to understand how can we like help the locals and incentivize them not to cut down the forest, and see what part of our model can apply there. Because, you know, these are like jungles, so we need to be careful how to like protect them. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get you.
Yeah.
I'd
Where are you based?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, so not far. Oh, I guess kind of far from you, but technically not too far.
Yeah.
I'd imagine operating in Panama would be a little bit difficult. I'd imagine it's different everywhere because of the how I guess it's each government works and all of that. Have you ever looked at? I'd imagine it'd be like the master project. Looking into Brazil, I know my family, my stepmom is from Brazil, and I'm down there once in a while, and I try to keep up with the news there, and I haven't in a little bit, but I know their leader has been doing the deforestation of the Amazon, and they're building stuff there. What is your? I want to know what you think about that. What's your opinion on what he's doing, and why he wants to do it? Because I'm not even sure. And would you even try to step foot in that region?
I would totally try to step foot in that region. I am up for a challenge. I have friends that are, and our partners are actually there trying legally to find a solution, because what's happening from my little understanding is that even though you try to say this area now, I'm protecting it, it's not enough. You need to like go there and be on the ground non-stop, because otherwise it's just like, you know, it's like a war zone there. So this is why I'm trying to like work here closer in Panama, because it's similar, the forest is similar, and understand how we can like make this model for a tropical forest, and then see how we can like bring it there and help. But if you have connections, and if you have people or organizations that I can connect with and try to work with, I would love to.
So really quick, I know we're coming up to the top of the hour. I put 2 websites in the chat. I put 108 Forests to learn more about Ariana, and a way to contact Ariana as well through the website. And then I also put up Global Choices to learn more about Global Choices and the Arctic Angels, which is actually, Ariana, how we got connected. But from our entire community, I want to thank you. It was amazing to have you really share your story. It was quite inspiring. And really thank you for proving that you're never too young to be a change agent in this world, and to really follow. It's such a great lesson for me, and hopefully for everyone else, to follow your reason for being here, because there's no one else like you in the world, and we need you. And we need all of our community to do exactly their reason for being here. Next week, just as a reminder, in the States, if you're calling from before in the States, we will be celebrating Thanksgiving with a lot to be thankful for, including all of you and your reason for being here. So we will be taking a break and not having our weekly call. Stay tuned, because this series is about to morph into something really beautiful, from scholarships to private Facebook pages, really as we build up this community of youth mentors, and how we can support them, the next generation, and how we can learn from each other. So stay tuned for more information on that. With 3 minutes left, and as a tradition that I do with some of the work that we do on my other side with the United Nations, with our calls, we like to go into a moment of silence, a moment of meditation, and a moment of presence on the way out. Just a really cool thing to us to start with and to end with. Feel free to stay as long as you want and drop off as long as you want. But again, thank you all for joining us. It was a pleasure to have all of you, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.